What's up? Ghost Fictions is here, and we're back again. This is the third part of a story where Issei was betrayed and became the Jinchuriki of Kyuubi. But before we start, please consider subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Don't forget to check the description for more informations. Also, this is a translate version, you may find some mistakes, specifically in the character's gender. Issei of course is a male, but this time we have a female volley, female dragon, female great red. Well, with that out, let's get into part 3. It was a beautiful morning, it was already starting to get cold, a sign that winter was approaching. Many people wanted to stay in their beds, others had to get up to go to their jobs, others to their academy, but we focused on Issei house where we see two young people who headed towards the kitchen while being seen by Kurama. Kurama. Hey guys, are you up yet? Bran and John were going down when they heard Kurama speaking to them and they approached. Bran. Good morning Kurama, yes we get up because we have classes today, so we are going to the kitchen to prepare lunch with Nora and Purr. John. If since we have been with you they are always on us asking for these things, I don't know why. Kurama. There are these young people today who don't know how to decipher a girl in love. Bran. Leave it, it was always like this, I feel sorry for Purr. Kurama. I would feel more sorry for him, seeing how she is, she will surely be the dominant one. Bran laughed at the comment but. Kurama. And you are not saved, Nora has her eye on you too, and she is just like her friend, but worse, remember the most timid are the wildest sometimes. Bran was cold at this. Bran. Well let's leave that aside for the moment, well John let's prepare that. John. Okay. They both proceeded to go to the kitchen, while Kurama began to stretch out on the couch when he saw the brunette coming down. Issei. Hello Kurama, how are you? He said yawning. Kurama. Well. My god, what the hell happened to you, friend? He shouted when he saw Issei. Issei. What are you talking about? Kurama. What am I talking about, look at your body like this, it looks like you were fighting some beast with claws at night. Issei. Who? Oh that was two pretty beasts that did this to me haha. He said embarrassed by what they did last night. But it's not that big of a deal. Bran and John, upon hearing the scream, went to the dining room to see what happened, but when they saw the brunette's body with the scratches and marks, they remained hard and stunned. Bran. Damn friend, what happened to you? John. Maybe you were fighting some wolves for something like that. Kurama. You see how it's not a big deal if it seems like a herd of beasts grabbed you. Issei. How exaggerated they are, it was just a common evening. Kurama. What did you do in there? Issei. I won't tell you that, he said, going to the kitchen to prepare his lunch along with the girls. Kurama. If those two did that to them, I can't imagine when the other four join. John. It comes to us like a mummy if that happens hahaha. Kurama. I, like you, am starting to gain more resistance guys. Bran. Why? Kurama. I don't know, I'm just saying, who knows, maybe they need it. He said, giving them a foxy smile. What Kurama said left both boys with a chill as they thought about the reason for those words. After the rest went down to breakfast, everyone was ready to go to the academy, while Leisha and Sakvara would go to the meeting that was held today, due to the events that occurred. But before everyone left, Kurama stopped them and turned to Issei. Kurama. Hey Issei, before we all leave, I have to ask one thing. Issei. Yes it happens Kurama. Kurama. How did you summon that thing? Everyone paid attention as they also wanted to know. Issei. Well, the truth is I don't remember much. I only know that from one moment to the next I heard his name, and as if it were something every day I said his name. After that he appeared, but after that I don't know anything else. Kurama. I assume then the stories were true about them. He said while thinking. Weiss. What do you mean by that Kurama? Kurama. That thing that Issei summoned remembers its name. Blake. According to what Issei said at that time, his name was Vulcan because. Kurama. Listen, Vulcan is the name of a mythological being, a guardian if you want to call it, a long time ago before the gods existed, it was rumored that this planet was cared for and protected by 4 beings of great power, one of them was Vulcan. Guardian of the earth he protected everything that was fair and kind, along with the guardian of nature who protected the lives of beings, the other two were never known who they were, it was just that they were always very secretive that they were never even seen, but a long time ago it was believed that they were just a myth, since the gods erased any record of it. But now that I see one of them I believe that all their stories are true. Issei. So the creature that helped me was one of those guardians. Kurama. Exactly, but they only tend to appear when danger approaches that could decimate life on the planet, which is why it seems strange to me that it appeared while they were fighting that night. Issei. Wait, if they only appear when the planet is threatened because he wasn't there when the Trahiksa escaped and confronted him. Kurama. I don't know, they are very ancient beings, so much so that their actions are beyond our understanding. I only know that when one makes an appearance, it means that something big is approaching. Issei. Then we must prepare. Nora. Hey Issei, maybe you can summon him again if you call him. Issei. I haven't tried it, but it seems that it only appeared when I was in a bind. I must assume that time it was by some chance. Kurama. Well, let's leave this for later. I was able to confirm my suspicions, and we also have to go. We have business to do. Everyone nodded at what was said and said goodbye. Issei. Why didn't he appear when I was fighting the Trihiksa? Maybe there must be some condition for it to happen or… No, it can't be possible. Maybe the Trihiksa didn't want to destroy the planet. Maybe it was only because of our fear that we locked him back in. No. I must stop assuming these things. The future will tell the answers in due course. I must concentrate on what is happening now, then I will be able to find out more. He thought as he headed to the academy with Kurama and the others. Things proceeded as always. Issei and the others arrived at the academy. Rumi and Aika were fighting to be near the brunette, while Ruby and the others along with Ren's group were recovering what was given the day before when they had to miss the meeting. Issei was lying comfortably on the tree since despite everything he was still tired from the fight he had and the surprise that his two lovers gave him. Issei. How lucky that he had made another bracelet for Leisha before. He said, remembering how after that he gave it to her so that she could hide her regret about their relationship. Kurama. Yes, now that they know you have powers, they might start watching you. Issei. Yes, it is most likely that the factions will send someone to keep them informed of my actions, but now that I think about it, Argon had told me that they were not the ones that we felt were watching us the other time. Kurama. Are you sure? Issei. Yes, I'm sure, and I could tell that he wasn't lying. There must be a fourth part in this too, which hasn't been presented yet, but which he would get from spying on us. Kurama. With what has been happening to us so far, I'm sure it can't be a good thing. Issei. I don't know, maybe it should have been something else. They both sighed because of this they had many things to think about. At that point, Issei is called to the address over the loudspeakers. Issei. What happened now? He said, heading there. Upon arrival, he knocks on the door, receiving a pass from the other side, seeing the director there. Issei. Why are you calling me director? Director. Step young man, I wanted to know the reason for your injuries. It is the second time you have been in a fight and so I know you are not someone easy to hurt. Issei. Why do you say that? Director. It's good that you didn't end your fight very hurt when you faced that gentleman in that dimension, or if you were a former Sekiruyuite. She said, circling around Issei. Hearing what she called him, Issei quickly turned around and grabbed the woman's hands, taking her against the wall while looking at her seriously. At this the woman blushes because of the position they are in, and it didn't help that the brunette's face was so close to her with that cold look that she gave him. Issei. Who are you, how do you know that and who sent you? He said, giving the woman a dark look, making her blush. Director. Don't worry, I'm not your enemy, I'm a magician who is not affiliated with any faction or group, and the way I know about your fight is because some people who saw it were recording it and uploaded it, thinking they humiliated you. That's why I know about your fight. When Issei saw that she wasn't lying, he let her go. Issei. Sorry for being rude, but after what they did to me, let's just say that I don't like being in front of one of them. Principal. Don't worry, I was supposed to be able to do this, so it's my fault for not being softer. Issei. Don't worry. Director. And then why do you have those injuries? Issei. That wouldn't be very invasive of you, miss, he said in a sensual tone. The director shuddered at that. Smith. Call me Smith, that's my name. Issei. Understood Smith-san, and the wounds are from a simple friend of mine who was worried so I went to fight alone. Smith. I understand, but you should take better care of yourself, okay? Plus we could have talks more often, I would like to get to know you more. Issei. Of course there is no problem Smith-san, but that will be during the break times I have during classes. Smith. Of course I have no problem. Issei. Well, in the next break I will come again, now I must leave soon, this break will end, so see you later. He said as he proceeded to leave, giving Smith a warm smile. Smith was looking at where Issei was. Smith. Now I know why he is always surrounded by girls, he has a warm and protective heart towards those he loves, haha, who would say that I would fall in love with him just with that? He said while he sat down and thought about all the facets that the brunette showed them today, but one more thing, the dominant face he made when he cornered her, she shuddered, remembering she had never felt that before. Underworld meeting room. They were all sitting there seriously, things were very alarming for them, the one they despised and betrayed was becoming stronger than when he was with them, and to top it all off he was allied with the guy who had humiliated them in front of everyone at the wedding, who he was going to train, since he showed that he had the same powers as him. Surziches. Well, we all know why we are here today. The exile is getting stronger and has as an ally the guy who broke into the ceremony. Gabriel. How could this happen if we made sure he didn't have any power when we banished him? Azazel. This is very worrying. He may seek revenge on us now that he is stronger. Auden. And even more so now that that person is on your side. Michael. If he was already a threat, now that the exile is with him, he could pose a greater danger to us. Seraphol. I think we should kill him and that guy right now, so we can make sure they don't try anything. Riaz. Exactly, this way we can avenge what he did to Shiva and our Ashkan. Asia. As Riaz Onachan said, we must finish them now. Zenobia. Yes, we must. Scarlet. Stop, everyone, remember that this guy already defeated us alone, and now that the exile has proven to be strong and is on your side, it is more certain that they can defeat us all easily. Brah. As I had said before, I will not participate in this idiocy. I will not endanger my people because of their ideas. Scarlet. Now we must worry more about the Legion than about them. Remember that he said that as long as we didn't mess with him and his partner, he wouldn't do anything to us, and I'm sure that the exile is only looking to become strong to defend himself from those who want to attack him if we attack them. Now we would not only be making them consider us their enemies, but we would also be giving them reason to attack us themselves, and with that group loose, it would be the worst idea we could do. The leaders reconsidered what Scarlet told them, but Ash's girls were dissatisfied, so they wanted to take revenge on both of them. Shiva. What does it matter? They won't be able to defeat all of us. What's more, here we have someone who can tell us where both of them are, said Sikvera, walking towards him. But before he continued approaching, Ra stood up and stood in his way. Shiva. Turn away now, Ra. Ra. Remember that the last time you did something like that we were almost eliminated by him, or you forgot about that thing in the heavens that I created. Everyone shuddered when they remembered that, they had forgotten it. Scarlet. There is also the thing that the exile summoned. We don't know what it was, but we do know that it was quite powerful because of the aura he had. We don't know if he can do the same or if it isn't the only creature he can bring. Possibly we are facing a new, more powerful being. The list will change shortly. Office. What are you talking about, Red? Scarlet. I say that soon I may lose my position as the strongest being in the world. Tiamat. Why the hell do you say that? You are the goddess of dreams. I don't think a simple human can take your position from you. Scarlet. Remember that there was already a person before who defeated me, as well as Yahweh and the Trahixa itself. Everyone kept quiet. It was true there was an identical case a long time ago. Or Haidu. Then that waste will be one of the 10 strongest beings in the world. Mikahaidu. Then we should have gotten rid of him when we could. Arena. Don't worry, Odasan Akasan, I'm sure he won't be able to get very far. Remember that we have Ashkan who will defeat him if that happens. Azazel. But I don't think I can beat him, maybe with the banished one, but with Sikvera's partner he didn't create, it's more likely that she will become someone very valuable soon. Hiroka. What are you talking about, Azazel? Enemu? Explain yourself now. Azazel. Possibly in the future his and Sikvera's children will be beings of enormous power, capable of radically changing the list. At that, everyone looked at Sikvera, who began to caress her belly as a sign that she was waiting for that to happen, but at that moment, Leisha, jealous, pushed her a little, making her stop under the watchful eyes of everyone, especially Ajuka, who began to analyze the reason for this. That action of his niece. Sikvera. What's wrong with you, Leisha? Leisha. Sorry, Sikvera, I just lost my balance. They both began to fight under everyone's gaze, but that's it. Ajuka. It was beating because I feel an essence mixed with yours. Eaten at this, he stops and turns around like this his uncle. Leisha. I guess it was time everyone knew. Well, as you can see I have an essence mixed with mine, and if you can check it is the same as Sikvera's. Everyone saw that it was true, leaving them shocked. Leisha. As you can see I am also in a relationship, and it is neither more nor less than with the same man that Sikvera is with, and just yesterday I gave myself body and soul to him. Ajuka. But what would your parents say about this? Remember that you are the heir of the clan, you cannot make this decision that easily. Leisha. I don't care about that, if they want to disinherit me I won't make any complaints since I love him with all my being, and I am willing to leave all my luxuries for him just like Sikvera. Everyone couldn't believe this now, or it was only Sikvera, but also Leisha who was with that guy. Ash's girls were furious about this, since she chose the person who humiliated her lover, while Ash was furious that guy had stolen another one again woman more. Azazel. So now it would be 2 women who would give birth to the next strongest beings. Valerie. What are you talking about, old man? Soon the mating season of the dragons will begin, and we will be able to have our children much faster. Think about it, 2 celestial dragons together with a dragon king, and 2 dragon goddesses. We will have our offspring who will be beings of extraordinary potential, and their children will be simple inferior beings. Tiamat. Exactly, you're assuming that too soon. All of Ash's stakeholders were saying the same thing, that their children will be superior to those of Sakvara and Laisha. But they just got up and walked away, leaving them to continue talking about how strong their children will be. Scarlet. Well, let's put that aside and continue with what we came to do. I think we should keep an eye on the exile one, just to make sure what he is planning, but just don't attack him until we know if he is a threat. All the leaders accepted and began to debate who they should send. Jer. I think I would be a good option to keep an eye on him, leaders, she said, raising her voice so that they could hear her, but it would be held back by her sisters. Auden. Why do you think that, little one? Jer manages to get out of his sister's grip and goes to the front. Jer. I know all of his hobbies since I follow him, plus because of my appearance I can easily go unnoticed, as a girl who is a fan of his songs manages to go unnoticed. Everyone agreed with those reasons he gave. Auden. Well then, it's decided, but you won't go alone, it's too risky. Brunhild. Then I would like to join since I can't let my younger sister do it alone. Auden. Well then, someone else wants to join. At that, an angel raises her hand. I offer myself if Lord Michael accepts. Michael. Are you sure, Alicia? Alicia. Of course, my lord, I am ready for this mission, and I would also like my exorcist companion to accompany me. Michael. Who is Alicia? My name is LaFolia. Auden. Then that would be all, go and find the location of the exiled and monitor his movements. The four women proceeded to go in search of Issei. Human World Central Plaza. The brunette was walking alone since he decided to take a break from compassing songs and to think about everything that happened to him so far. That's when he sees the time and decides to return home, but without him noticing, the four spies were a little behind him, so he didn't notice since they sealed their auras and powers so he wouldn't notice them. They had been following him for a while until they saw him enter his house. With that already seen, they began to look for a house where they could stay. While they watched him, they saw a house that was for sale which was one street away from Issei. So they bought it and brought their things. That day they dedicated themselves to getting to know each other, and the reason for accepting that mission where they all said it was because they were interested in getting to know more closely what Issei was like, since he had interested them after the fight in the case of the angel and the exorcist, with Jer. For her voice and charisma, and Brunhild for her way of being and her bravery that she demonstrated in addition to her willpower and perseverance. The days passed and the brunette managed to meet his four new neighbors. Let's say that his first impression was that they were a bit peculiar. The first one he met was little Jer, who sneakily approached him during one of his outings with a girl. Aika and Rumi, their impression of her was that she was a very lively and charismatic girl. It was only enough that they met 3 times for Issei to begin to trust her, to the point that he used to go for walks with her and even let her pass by his house to play both with the console. The second was with Jer's older sister Brunhild. They met when Jer had invited him to have tea with, and she accompanied them. His impression of her was that she is a serious woman with a fine demeanor, but then by spending time with her, he managed to see that she was also kind and very protective of the people she loves. He managed to get along with her thanks to the fact that she used to invite him to have tea when she was available, or they used to go out together to the park to talk about their lives. Thanks to that, he managed to bury himself that he had 11 other sisters besides Jer, which surprised him quite a bit. Finally, he was able to meet his 2 remaining neighbors, who left a rather funny impression on them, because even though they were both very friendly, they did not know much about current events, but they had explained to the brunette that it was because they both lived in a nuns' convention, where these things they didn't use each other or talk. He could also see that they were very devoted to God, which even though she reminded them of a certain blonde, they thought it was quite funny to see them talk about it. Alicia was the one who talked to him the most about it. He could tell that she was very kind and sincere during their talks. Both managed to get along very well due to the fact that she used to accompany him during his morning training outings, where they both talked while walking, managing to make Angel blush when she trained her body. But Sharon, it was more like he was teaching her about society. He had seen her during one of her outings to replenish supplies because of a certain little animal which ate more than a malnourished cow. The thing is that he approached her to help her choose a cell phone, while she is very confused because one had this and the other had this function. In the end, the brunette managed to buy her one that went very well with her. He used to stop by to see her to talk to her about modern things, but on one of those outings they managed to meet Aika. When she saw her, her thought was that she wanted to take the brunette away from her, but after she told him about her knowledge problem, she managed to get her to help her. Aika, upon getting to know her more thoroughly, saw in her Asia, who had the same problem, only that she was not shy like her, so she decided to help her to be better than her and taught her the same thing as Asia at the time. The thing is that she became quite attached to Sharon, who decided that if she managed to get the brunette to go out with her, she would let them share him between the two of them. Seeing how well the two got along, Issei was quite happy, although he was a little afraid of what Aika could teach Sharon, which, as his instincts predicted, Sharon obtained a very flirtatious attitude with him, thanks to the things Aika taught her. In fact, she even used to get very provocative when he was around, but not to the extent of Aika, although to the point of blushing and making the brunette very nervous. He admitted that he liked Sharon, but with this new facet, she had made him desire her even more since, although he didn't admit it, he always wanted to have a girl like Sharon, kind and gentle on the one hand, but naughty and perverted when that was warranted. We can say that he had a good impression of all of them, and they managed to get to know him better. They knew what he was like before the banishment, but the Issei of now was much more mature, and at least it was not very evident when he saw their figures, but instead of disliking them, in fact, they liked that he thought that way about them, and when he saw them, they didn't see the desire of their bodies for him, but that of a man who admired the woman he had in mind. That was enough to make all of them completely fall in love. Even from time to time he saw Smith, and they went to have a coffee there while they talked about themselves, and from one anecdote of his, it is possible to say that Smith managed to fall more and more in love with Issei, thanks to these outings they had. The days passed, reaching the date that every student wishes for, winter, and what it entails for winter break, these days where people quickly arrived to their classrooms for the mere fact that their legs would not freeze, where everyone could not do anything because of the cold. Their lunches went directly to their academies, where for that simple reason the cafeteria was left without a pantry, and a pitched battle broke out to get their lunch, but if we focus a little we can see our favorite Issei at the beginning of the line taking his food pan. Issei. Okay, every day it's more difficult to do this, haha. He thought as he went to the table where the others were waiting for him. Everyone called him when he saw him arrive. Umi. Here Issei, we are here. He said while raising his hand making signs. Issei. Well, I was finally able to get my lunch, guys, it was really crazy, hahaha. Ren. We told you that you should hurry, these dates are always like that. Issei. Yes, sorry, but the director sent me to call, he said, laughing softly. Aika. Now that I think about it, you're not going too much in Issei's direction lately. She said while sharpening her gaze, making him very nervous. Ruby. Now that you mention it, you are right, since that day where the student council looked for problems with him, he has been going to the management a lot. Weiss. Maybe you're hiding something from us, Issei, she said, looking at him accusingly. Blake and Yang joined the girls in looking at her, but didn't say anything because they were eating. Issei was against the wall, he couldn't tell her about the relationship as friends he had with Smith, since he didn't know what Sikfara they would say, he didn't know if they would accept her as one more for him, since he began to have feelings for her. But as if it were a light in the darkest pit, someone saved him. John. Surely it must be to deny some accusations that the council said about him. Lately I have been hearing a lot of rumors where the council said that he kept spying on the girls, but they were never able to prove it, since he is always in his club or with one of us. That must be why, not Issei, she said, giving him a knowing smile. Issei smiled at this and nodded. Issei. As John says, that's why they call me lately to hear my testimony about those rumors, but my innocence is always proven. He said calmly. The girls looked at each other and nodded at what they both said. It was very true that lately those rumors began to circulate where some believed it and others didn't, so they left the topic behind. The brunette thanked John for this and told him that he owed him one. Which John told him that that's what friends and brothers are for. When everyone had finished their lunch they prepared to go to their classrooms, but in the corner of one of the hallways was Ash watching Issei. Ash. Enjoy the little time you have, since today you will stop getting in the way of my plans. He said as he went to the living room since it was time to have a sex session with his girls. But while he was going to the council he suddenly felt bad, so he went to the bathrooms where upon arriving he began to vomit blood. Ash. Damn, I don't have much more left, but I have to hold on until they are locked up, so my plan will work. He looked at his pendant. You have to hold on a little longer, and then I can achieve my goal. He said while he cleaned himself and he led with his wives. But that necklace not only prevented them from discovering his identity, but also made a certain dragon fall asleep when she was with him, so he did not know what his partner was planning and his dark secret. The day continued as usual, but now we see our brunette in the music room, preparing to release another song, while the others left since today was the promotion ceremony, and they had to prepare to attend, and Rumi and Aika left early because they had meetings with their families. Issei. Well, it's been a while since I uploaded something that I should upload. While he was thinking, he remembered his fight and the feeling of adrenaline he had when he fought, giving him an idea. That's it will be a song to demonstrate your strength. That's when he prepared himself and thought about the tone he would use and started. Once it was done, I wanted to sing another one, although this one decided to make it a more lively one, like a party. While he was singing he started to dance, recording himself as he went along. When he finished, Issei felt happy with what he uploaded, but he thought there was something more missing, so he decided to upload another but different one. But that done, he left to be able to say goodbye to his friends and partners who were going to the ceremony in an hour. As he headed towards the exit, he noticed the sky which was beginning to cloud, but not as if it were a simple rain, it was more as if they predicted that something very bad was going to happen. Then the brunette approaches and rests his hands on the window while looking at the sky, but then he feels that someone was watching him, and he turns around quickly, cutting his hand on the edge of the window, but then he tries to see who was watching him, since it was the same feeling as when he was with Kurama, which was not he showed a sign of evil, but of kindness and calm, but he did not see anything again. He saw his wound which began to bleed, which confused him, since it was true that he was much more resistant than ordinary people, and something that simple should not hurt him. Which gave him a feeling that something bad would happen. Without him noticing, a person began to approach him, seeing what happened to him, so he tried to touch him, which Issei anticipated and moved away, putting himself on guard in case it was one of his enemies, but he saw that the person was nothing more than less than the academy nurse Chisato Hasegawa. Chisato. Calm down, young man, I just wanted to see your wound since it looks very ugly. Issei. Excuse me, Miss Hasegawa, lately I'm very anxious due to certain events that happened. Chisato. Don't worry, it doesn't matter, now follow me, let's go to my office so we can heal your hand. Issei. Okay, miss. Chisato. Tell me, Chisato, I don't like being called miss or by my last name. They both went to Chisato's office, which was the academy's infirmary. Chisato. Well, give me your hand so I can disinfect it and sell it. At that, Issei gives her his hand, which upon making contact with Chisato's felt a warmth that he had only felt with his partners. Chisato. You should be more careful, you will not always have someone to help you, sometimes you will be alone, and you will have to act if warranted. Issei. Yes, sorry, I was very distracted by how the sky was very sad, as if it knew that someone would suffer. Chisato. Sometimes the sky knows when its best soldiers are about to suffer, but you should take care of yourself even more when it is like this, since the sky always warns. They both remained silent, staring at each other, neither of them said anything. Chisato, despite her serious look, could see that in her gaze there was one of concern, and at the same time understanding, which for Issei made it hypnotic, while for Chisato, the brunette's gaze was the of the person who, despite proving to be at peace and calm, deep inside him kept a latent darkness that was waiting for the right moment to come out. Without realizing it, they both said a few words. Chisato. Cutie. When they realized this, they separated and apologized for that. Issei. Sorry for all the trouble I gave you, Hasek. Chisato-san. Chisato. No problem, it's my duty as a nurse, so don't worry. Issei. Thank you for everything, but I have to go, I'm late, goodbye. He said, leaving the infirmary, but he heard something before leaving. Chisato. Take care of yourself, Issei. The brunette was confused, he never told him his name, but he didn't give it any importance. Perhaps he knew him from the director or one of the rumors about him. Issei was after a while arriving home, but before entering he noticed that his neighbors were not there, but he believed that they must have done something, since previously they used to leave occasionally and return the next day. When he entered he saw his friends and partners there ready to leave, so his girls came up to kiss him, while the others greeted him. Ren. Ha ha ha, how funny, this is very uncomfortable. John. The truth is I really like how it looks on me, it gives me an air of elegance. Without them realizing it, Nora and Pura were watching them with a look that said they would enjoy it when they had them to themselves. Both boys felt that soon they would both suffer, so a chill ran through them. Then Kurama appears in a suit while walking elegantly. Issei. Wow, that suit looks good on you, partner, and I don't know how you could wear it because of all the food you eat. He said, making the majority laugh but receiving a nudge from Sakura. Kurama. Yeah, very funny, but I give you what you said, that suits me well. Aisha. Well guys, we must go, the ceremony is going to begin. Sakura. Well, be ready and remember that you must behave well, especially your Ruby, remember not to devour all the desserts like Kurama. Ruby. Kurama. Hey, that's very racist. Issei. But you're right. Ruby. Kurama. But you're right. They said, depressed, making the others laugh. At that everyone said goodbye to Issei and went to a magic circle, while Issei watched them through a magic circle. When everyone arrived they were greeted by some guards who asked for their invitations, which after giving them to them, they proceeded to enter under the gaze of the brunette. Issei was seeing how good his girls looked, but then he senses several presences on the coast of the city heading towards the forest. Issei. I guess I won't be able to see when the girls are being promoted, I'm sorry, but I have to verify who they are and what their intentions are. She said, going to the place while a circle appeared which changed her outfit for her battle suit. And so he headed to the place where he felt the presences without knowing what that place had in store for him or the things he would have to face. Issei heads to the place like this, wanting to see who is waiting for him and what their intentions are, but the brunette will be able to face his rivals, perhaps he will be able to escape unscathed, or things will get complicated. Underworld, promotion party. Everyone was celebrating while waiting for the young demons who were going to be promoted to arrive. There were all the pillar families of the underworld, some gods and goddesses from other factions, even some dragons too, to see the promotion of their next dragon god and faction leader. For being with the 2 dragon goddesses. All of this was being broadcast to the entire public, that is, the civilians of both the underworld and the other factions all wanted to see this moment, they were happy that their pillar was recognized. Although he will not be recognized as they expected. But further away at a table were Brunhold and Jer with their sisters sitting talking about their days with Issei. While Alicia and Sharon were with the other angels discussing their duties. That's where Sakvara and the others enter, being accompanied by Kurama. It goes without saying that some of them were sending them serious and hateful looks for the simple fact of being next to the person who had humiliated their hero, mostly it was the looks of the women. And young people who demonstrated this, while some only had looks of desire, this was attributed to the patriarchs and matriarchs of the majority of the clans both in the underworld and the others, for the simple fact of the desire to have power which that person had shown. They were trying to talk to the young Aigers to ask her if she could accept more concubines for her partner. But before they could go to talk to her, Ash appeared with his partners and the other demons who were about to be promoted. Everyone was amazed by how she looked. Ash and his girls, many said that he was very lucky to have such beauties with him, others admired the beauty of his girls, while many women were very horny for him. All this was being seen by Kurama and the others, who saw it with indignation at how everyone was behaving. They all went to a corner of the room to wait for the ceremony to begin. At that moment, Sakvara's parents and Leisha's parents arrived. Who saw their daughter with disappointment for not having chosen the pillar as her partner. Leisha saw their looks of disappointment. She still remembered the fight she had after the meeting, where she announced her engagement with Sakvara's partner, her parents. They had done it for having done that without their consent, but that did not stop Leisha. Who had told them all her truths to their faces, leaving them perplexed by it, and she herself had retired to her partner's house, leaving them devastated by the words she had said. Leisha. You are disgusting parents, you only look after your convenience without caring about my happiness, you only want power and status before me, I hopefully never see you again asking for something since to me you are despicable. That day Leisha had said what she had kept in her heart for a long time. After that, the heiress Belphegor entered, and upon seeing her friends Sakvara and Leisha, she greeted them and her entourage. Roigun. Hello girls, how are you doing? Sakvara. Hello Roigun, we are doing well. Leisha. How about Roigun, we were just waiting for the ceremony to start. Roigun. Apparently the leaders and other young people have not arrived yet. Sakvara. And your entourage because Roigun is not with you. Roigun. They were very tired from the missions we had so I told them that they will stay, but as you see I had to come since I am also one of those who are going to be promoted. At that everyone began to introduce themselves to heiress Belphegor, giving them a good impression of her. A while after Ash was interviewed, the mass made an appearance with the council, implying that the ceremony would begin. While they were giving an introduction to start the event, Kurama began to notice that he was increasingly pale, in addition to having a different aura. Kurama. Guys, be careful, something's not right. Beating. What's happening Kurama? Kurama. Something is happening to that guy. He said pointing to Ash. Sakvara. Let's be careful, something may happen. He said to the others who were ready for any event that happens. Everyone was serious about this, but the Aigers patriarchs were confused by what they were saying, and when they were about to speak the mass asked the ascended ones to come up. The young people headed to the stage, lining up in front of the mass and the council. Secret laboratory. Infernal Legion. Victor and Professor X were watching the entire party thanks to a secret comrade that they had there which no one could notice, because of how advanced it was, they were aware that their spy would do his job, and thus continue with the next phase, which was to catch Issei. Victor. Well, everything is going well, it seems like he is doing his job well at least. Professor. Let's hope the device lasts until the signal is given. Victor. He'll hold on, don't worry about that, but you should worry that they might catch him before he manages to escape or defeat them. Professor. Don't worry, they are prepared for him, he has a small object that will capture him, no matter how powerful he is. Victor. Huo, and what is that object? Professor. It is a box which contains a version of the seal that they used to seal the beast of the apocalypse, although it has some improvements that it implements which will make it so that you cannot even appreciate what is happening. They both started to laugh because everything was going well, they just had to wait for the right moment and they would have everything they needed to complete their objective, but they did not realize that there was a shadow that was listening to all this while watching on one of the monitors. As Issei was heading to the place where they were waiting to capture it. I must go and tell you what you have in mind for Issei. He said as he proceeded to leave, but he did not realize that both had felt his presence, so he started to run. Victor. Damn, we have an intruder. Professor. Damn. He said while activating the security systems. Attention everyone, we have an unwanted guest, so catch him, we don't know how much he knows. All the residents of the place began to chase the subject. Damn, I must flee quickly, I must prevent him from being caught. She began to run towards the exit, but then the soldiers began to launch attacks, tearing apart the tunic she was wearing, revealing her beautiful brown hair. Outside Kuo, Port Mountain Base. Issei was walking around the place looking for any sign of the people who were here, then he sensed a source of power at the top of the mountain, so he quickly headed to the top. When he arrived, he was surprised by the mountain. Apparently it was an inactive volcano because of the crater it had, but he couldn't continue observing because everything started to shake and the area around the volcano and the coastal area was surrounded by a barrier. Issei got into a battle pose, waiting for someone to appear, but no one made an appearance, which confused the brunette. Suddenly the walls of the volcano began to crack, leaving cracks from which black snakes-like offices came out, but these had different auras, not only from the Dragon of Infinity, but also from the different supernatural races. All of them surrounded Issei, who is observing in a pose of battle. Suddenly all the snakes begin to mutate, creating horrendous creatures that seem to come from the same volcanic abyss. Suddenly one of them rushes towards Issei wanting to attack him, but Issei makes a dagger appear and avoids the attack by giving him a cut. The creature had a cut from its shoulder to its abdomen, but it didn't take long for it to begin to regenerate, surprising the brunette. Issei. Damn, these things also have phoenix DNA, that complicates things. He said, avoiding another's attack from behind. Then he started to fight, cutting everyone who got close to him, but it was the same thing. It only took a few seconds to heal and that's it. They were ready to continue. Issei. I need to find a way to defeat these things, but I can't do it here. I don't want the volcano to activate while I fight them. At that he remembers a plane that he had seen while he was running here, seeing that it was a spacious area that would allow him to have more mobility than the inclined wall of the volcano. At that point he made a 360 degrees cut, separating the creatures, and began to jump along its sides. Heads trying to reach the plane. Underworld. The ceremony had started, but Sikvera and the others were attentive because of the words Kurama had said. Surziches. Welcome everyone to this day where these young people who demonstrated conviction and strength before all of us today will stop being simple high-class demons and will become elite demons for their efforts and achievements. Everyone began to applaud the young people in front. All the leaders went to each one of them while greeting them and congratulating them on their promotion. After that the young people began to congratulate each other, but when Ash approached Sikvera he began to speak, drawing the attention of all the guests. Ash. Wow Gears, what's wrong? I see that you are alone without your partner on this day where you were promoted. Maybe he doesn't care enough for you to be here, or maybe he doesn't want to be seen with the Hashira of the underworld, which is seventh useless, haha. Everyone started laughing at what he said and their wives started laughing at what their partners said. Sikvera's friends were serious about this and were going to intervene until Sikvera answered. Sikvera. You call me a laughingstock of the underworld and useless when you are not even someone to tell me. From what I remember you are just a usurper of the power you have, since it does not belong to you, you were someone who was at the right time to receive it. As I remember you weren't in the fight against the brigade and you brag about being the strongest when you can't even withstand a simple blow. You can't do anything if you don't have the leaders next to you. You are a parasite who is above everyone trying to be someone who just you are not. All your achievements and titles are from someone else who is someone who deserves respect or someone like you who is just a proud bastard who has everything on a silver platter. You are nothing compared to Issei, you are just his shadow. While he was training to acquire that power, you just stole it and claimed to be the best when you are just a thief. So don't come and say that I am useless and make her laugh when you are. Everyone was quiet. Sikvera had said everything with venom, making Ash feel bad. The leaders were about to intervene as well as the council when his couples came to his aid. Riaz. How dare you say that? You are no one to talk about him when you didn't even want to be his wife and you called that scum to save you. Sikvera. Cool, look who's talking. The girl spoiled by her brother who didn't want to marry him, stupid Razor, and her little brother went to Asia crying for help, but then she had to use her pawn to save her and then betray him for someone who is just a bastard. So don't come here saying that if you did the same, only with a difference that I don't use my savior as a toy like you. Valerie. You better stop Agares if you don't want to end up badly, he said, releasing his power trying to scare her. Sikvera. And what will you do if I don't shut up? She said, releasing her power at the same time. You are no different from the slut, in fact, all of you are just as bastards as her. Everyone was impressed by the sharp tongue of the Arasagers, but before they continued, Ash collapsed on the floor starting to convulse, worrying the leaders and their girls who went to him and supported him against the lectern on the stage. Asia and Gabriel began to heal him, wanting him to stop convulsing under the gaze of the others until. Enemu? This is surely the work of your partner. He said, pointing to Sakvara and Laisha. Tiamat. She must have done something to him when she attacked him, since that day she has been like this. Hineko. He was surely poisoned or cursed. Everyone saw the aforementioned who were calm in the face of the accusations. But before they did anything, Kurama jumped in front of them, moving them away from the front. Kurama. Get back, girls, he's not who you think he is, get away from him now, his aura is starting to change. Everyone was confused by what the fox said except Sakvara and the others, who knew that if he said it, it was for a reason. Isaka. What the hell are you talking about? Damn, he is our partner, you are surely doing this so that they can escape, since you are friends with the person who did this to him. The leaders were about to send to capture them, when a magic circle appears from which an injured person covered by a robe fell out. Guard. Who are you? Identify yourself. Everyone was paying attention to the mysterious person who began to reveal his face, showing brown hair, surprising everyone because of who he was. Seraphil. Kateria. But how? Azazel. Impossible. I killed you. Kateria. All of you stay away from him, he is not who you think he is. She said, tired and weak from her injuries. Surziches approached her and said. Surziches. Do you think we will believe what you say after everything you did? Kateria started crying, surprising everyone because she was a proud woman for it. Kateria. You must believe me, he is deceiving them to be able to catch him. Sakvara. The others began to feel that she was referring to the brunette, but they didn't know if it was out of fear or because of their hearts that they believed that the brunette was in trouble until. Kateria. They want to catch Issei so that their plans are successful, they must go save him before it happens, please, it doesn't matter what they do to me, but go out and kill him before it's too late. He said, pointing to Ash, who was beginning to calm down. Azazel. Ha, and if we care what happens to that exile, it would only be one stone less to worry about. Seraphil. And since we kill Ash and he is not who he says he is, I should finish you right now for trying to get my beloved hurt. He said, preparing an attack to kill her. But before he launches his attack, Ash begins to glow, expelling Mio from within him. They all went to help her when they saw her look, which was one of horror and disgust, when they were going to ask her why she spoke. Mio. No, 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 in the name of the dragon gods, please tell me it's not true, please, I don't want this to be true. She said, very terrified and disgusted, while she cried and wished it was a nightmare when she saw who Ash really was. Kateria. Why the hell don't you just die and stop destroying our lives? He said in anger, scaring everyone. At that, Ash begins to change his appearance, showing the least desired and rejected person who could appear, scaring everyone present. Kateria. I curse the day I met you and joined your plans. Son of the morning star. Everyone was terrified by who their pillar really was. The one who had started the war, the one who was repudiated for his acts, Rizavum Lucifer, the ancient Mayu and leader of the brigade who brought pain and death to the world. The women who were with him were horrorized, disgusted and frightened by this, the person they had been given to them every day, which they always pleased, for which they fighted to be the first, to have her inside theirs and feel him while he holds them, while they were moaning and they asked for more of their semen inside them. Some vomited when they remembered how they sucked them and swallowed their semen, asking for more and more. Others were so bad that they feigned on their knees with a lost look, remembering how they righted him. Others were already so devastated they started screaming, saying things that could not be understood. Rizavum. Heh. Heh. He seems like my time is up. But I don't regret it. I enjoyed every moment. He said, snapping his fingers, completely undoing the spell that was hiding him. By doing so, he also released his essence, which manifested in all the women with whom he had been having sex. But everyone was horrified to see that certain women like Venelana, Gryphia, Miss Labael, Lady Phoenix and Citri also had them. There were even some goddesses like Aphrodite and Athena, plus everyone saw how orbs of energy came out of each girl who did it. The pendant I had went with it. Their partners were totally destroyed, they couldn't believe that their wives who had given them everything had deceived them, and it was made worse by the fact that it was their worst enemy. Everyone present and watching on the broadcast was scared by how this turned out. Rizavum. Hey, what's happening? Cough. No, they were celebrating me a while ago, or maybe they forgot how they worshipped me, hahaha. It seems that they were surprised by this, but although I would like to continue destroying them mentally, but I have to see how they capture the bastard from Issei before. He said, making a large circle appear where a volcano was seen in full activity, while at its base a group of creatures could be seen. They were on someone. Wow, it seems like I arrived in time to see him fall. Sakura and the other Issei girls and their friends began to worry when they saw that it was the brunette who was below those creatures. Suddenly they all tried to attack Rizavam, but their attacks were stopped by a barrier that surrounded Rizavam. Rizavam? Think I would be defenseless or delusional as long as I have this? He said, showing his pendant. No one can even touch me. Everyone was elated by this until suddenly they all saw how Sakura and the others were crying out of fear since they couldn't teleport no matter how hard they tried. They were all hysterical because of this. They could not go and help their Issei. Fear invaded them inside when they thought that they could lose him forever. Even the two Valkyries and the angel and the exorcists were the same as them, which surprised their acquaintances to see them. So, despite knowing him for a short time, they fell in love with him, and that is why they were like this. Everyone tried to teleport but no one could, something prevented them from leaving. Suddenly everyone hears a sickly laugh, directing their gaze at whoever was making it. Rizavam. Hahaha, it is in vain that they try that since no supernatural being can leave until I decide. Everyone is locked up with me, no one can leave, hahaha. Pateria. Why the hell are you doing this, Rizavam? He is no longer your enemy, he left the supernatural a long time ago, and you know it. Rizavam. Yes, he left thanks to me that happened, but it's not just because yes, we need his cells. His strength is something out of the ordinary, despite being someone normal. Now he showed he has potential, so we decided that we had to capture him to be able to use their genes, so that we can create powerful beings to protect ourselves from them. That is why we needed to be able to save ourselves. Kateria. If you had not gone to his world and provoked them, none of this would have been necessary. You provoked them, and now you want him to be your producer of warriors to challenge you. You do not want to protect us, you want to conquer them, and for that they need him. Rizavam. And if that's the case, cough. Maybe it matters, he's a simple human, his life is worth nothing if we can become stronger, or maybe he matters to you. Rizavam. Ha ha ha, it's serious. So this was the reason why you joined our mission. Who would say the descendant of our ancestors is in love with a human? Ha ha ha, it's the best joke I've ever heard. Pateria. Shut up, you don't understand what love is, you just want power and satisfaction. Rizavam. You know I don't have time for this idiocy, I have to see how they capture someone. And that everyone sees how Issei was being subjugated. Issei found himself being surrounded by the creatures. Luckily he had already come down from the mountain to a clearer area. But it was still very difficult to fight against a number of creatures there were, but thanks to the fact that he was now in a better position he could fight freely without needing to hold back. Issei. Well now yes. They said, launching themselves like this at the beasts. The brunette began to cut the creatures left and right while evading their attacks. Suddenly one of them began to launch magical attacks that demons used to use. Issei. But what? He said, narrowly dodging the attack. How can they use demonic magic? And before it was like that thing received another attack from behind, sending it flying towards an exit that was near the sea, where a group had prepared some fire attacks that Issei remembered very well. They were Mind's attacks which he had used in his last fight with Valerie and Albion before they went to war, but it did not end there, but others began to launch different attacks which belonged to every supernatural race, including that of the gods. Issei could not dodge them all, leaving him injured and with his armor a little cracked, but before he could react, some heavy warriors made of water appeared. One of which hit him with a hammer. He swore that the strength of that thing resembled the strengthening magic that Kaneko used when she hit him. The force was enough to crash him into a hill that was a little far away. When he got up he could notice that these creatures were coming out of the coast while a whirlpool formed in the waters. Issei. Well, this is already too much. First these creatures of volcanic rock that have the powers of the different supernatural races, and now this, where these things come from. I didn't know what to do, there were too many enemies. Even if they only attack without coordination, their numbers will compensate for that weakness, making it difficult for Issei to attack since they launched their attacks, even if their allies were nearby, and even more so if they could regenerate, in that he sees that both types of monsters they launch themselves like this. Issei manages to avoid them by jumping into the sky, but he couldn't land as they began to launch attacks from a distance which he was able to dodge most of them, but there were many of them, so one managed to hit him, which caused the others to also hit him, crashing into him. The ground, but the creatures did not stop launching attacks which continued to sink Issei into the ground. Issei. Damn, there are too many, I can't find a moment to launch my attacks. He thought, enduring the attacks as long as he could. He couldn't think about anything else when he began to notice that the volcano had become active, which did not end there, but on the coast the whirlpool began to become more violent. Suddenly everything began to shake while the ground began to thunder. Soon a thunderclap fell in the middle of the volcano and the coast, followed by two loud colossal roars. Underworld. Everyone was scared to see that those things used their powers, how they had them, how they could get them. But they were even more scared when they heard those roars. For their part, Sikvera and the others along with the two Valkyries and Sharon and Alicia were crying frantically while begging for Issei to escape from there. They were devastated to see how those things were hurting him, and even more so when they heard that they feared that Issei would lose his life. They all tried to once again they created a magic teleportation circle to go save him, but as happened before they couldn't do it. Viteria was crying when she saw how the brunette who had fallen in love with her and showed her what he really wanted was massacred. Viteria. Stop Rizivum, even if they manage to capture it, you will no longer live for that time, you are just a puppet whose useful life is about to end. Rizivum. And even if it is true that does not change the fact that he is one of those who defeated me, so I will enjoy seeing how they take him away, so at least I will leave knowing that I was avenged. Viteria in anger began to launch attacks at the barrier, attracting the attention of the others who began to launch their attacks again, even some people joined in, such as Roygun and the other sisters of Brunhild and Jer. Rizivum. You waste your time, it is impossible to break this barrier thanks to this pendant, you will only be able to get out of there when everything is finished there. Viteria. Listen, we must find a way to remove that thing, so we can go to Issei's aid. But Issei. Everything was still shaking when suddenly a gigantic being emerged from the volcano, as well as from the whirlpool of water. The supernatural was scared to see those things emerge, while Issei's loved ones were very terrified to see the things that are behind him. They were all very scared to think that this would be the end of Issei. Kurama felt helpless because he couldn't go to his aid, he did not know how to remove this barrier. Everything was destroyed, the sky began to rain giving a different scene, the lava creatures were releasing steam just like the colossal fire giant, but even so they did not stop releasing flames from their bodies, they all approached where Issei was to finish your fight. Issei was underground due to the number of attacks he received, suddenly everything stopped while it began to rain up there, the raindrops ran through the cracks onto Issei's face, so Issei began to get out of the hole, seeing who was surrounded by colossal creatures and beasts, then Issei with a little difficulty gets up and looks around. Issei. Well, I guess they won't expect a surrender from me. He said a little exhausted and hurt while he only had part of his armor. The creatures roared as they began to head toward the Issei. Well I guess that's a yes. He said as he closed his eyes and began to feel the rain on his face, suddenly everything began to move slower. Everyone was attentive to what was going to happen, they believed that the exiled would not have a chance against those things, as were 12 individuals who were watching this from a place far away, ready to go and capture him when their beasts incapacitated him. Everyone was surprised when suddenly everything began to move slower, both sides looked at the brunette who began to open his eyes. Everyone was surprised, they were the same eyes that Sikvera's partner had. Underworld. Rizivum was stunned, he didn't believe what he saw, so he turned his gaze to see who would have the answer to this. He saw how Sikvera was crying with a worried face, but not just any worried face, but the one that usually occurs when the person involved is your partner, there. He confirmed it when he saw her, that day the one who had humiliated him and snatched her from his hands was not just anyone, it was the brunette who had made sure that he was out of his plans. This made him angry again, he had defeated and humiliated him while he was banished, he made him think that he was no longer a danger, but then he appeared anonymously at the wedding and arrested him again. Even so he managed to thwart his plans, even though he had taken away his loved ones, his titles, his achievements and what most importantly, to his women, he still stood against their plans while he put his life back together. Rizivum. Curse you. Haidu. I curse the day you were born, even when you were banished and abandoned by everyone you loved, you continued to meddle in my plans. He said in anger. Human world. When Issei opened his eyes he began to see all his enemies, and he knew that he didn't have much time with his eyes, so he took out a piece of glass from his pockets. Kurama, upon seeing this, was scared. That crystal was the one they had found in that cave a while ago. He didn't know what Issei planned to do with it, but it wouldn't be any good. He thought he would blow himself up to put an end to those things, and when he was going to say something, he saw how the brunette did something much worse than that. Issei crushed the crystal causing all his power to begin to flow through his body, it was too much despite being only the size of a pill, but he couldn't give up, he had to win this and return home for the girls, so he began to release his energy disintegrating every being that came close. The energy sling disintegrated all the small creatures, while the large ones were felled by it. Issei was on one knee very agitated, there was a lot of energy that she received all at once, if she had left it in her body for longer it would have exploded. But his rest could not continue as he saw how both giants stood up and gave him a roar of fury, both of them hurriedly headed towards Issei who had barely compassed himself. Issei. Well now it's just us, oh come on, you bastards, I haven't given up yet. He said while jumping to avoid a blow from the fire giant and a blast of water from the other. Issei took advantage of that and began to climb up the giant's arm, who upon seeing him began to throw blows with his other arm, trying to throw him off, but the brunette was very fast, and when he managed to reach the shoulder, he began to cover energy in his arm and hit him. The jaw of the being of fire. The blow was so powerful that it destabilized the being a little, but before Issei could continue, he avoided a water attack that the water being had launched, and the fire being received it, collapsing, leaving him out of combat for the moment. The brunette was on a pile of rocks while the water being began to attack him, but Issei, seeing that it was more of a ranged attack, launched his dagger to get closer to the water being and try to knock him down before the other one gets up. But when he was going to transport himself like this, his dagger received a blow from the water being, sending him to the remains of the volcano. The water being waited for Issei to emerge from the rubble, but he did not expect that what came out was an attack that collapsed him. Issei. Well, that hurt me, bastard. Issei watched as both beings stood up and began to think about what to do to defeat them. Issei. Damn, well, I guess it's the best way to finish them off. He mentally said to himself when thinking of a way to finish them off. At that point he begins to run, avoiding the attack of both while heading towards the coast. When he was about to arrive, he received a blow from the tail of the fire one, sending him to the water one, who received him with a blow from a hammer. When they were about to strike again with a dagger, he comes out of the ground holding his face, but before he arrives, Issei appears in his place and gets inside the water being. Everyone was excited, perhaps the clever one committed suicide, but before anyone could say anything, the water being began to scream while blisters of water came out of his body. The other giant, upon seeing this, headed towards him, but before the man arrived, the water being exploded, covering it with a gelatinous liquid that belonged to the water being, extinguishing its flames. Issei took advantage of the sling of the explosion, and the sky began to fall, so the other, who was off, with the speed with which he fell, began to gather his strength again in his right arm while addressing the remaining giant, colliding in his head. Passing it from side to side. A huge body fell to the ground without a head, while Issei was getting up and looking everywhere. All the girls in Issei screamed in happiness while Rizavam was angry, but remembered that there was still something else smiling sinisterly. Eteria. Wait, they're still missing. Kurama. Them. Suddenly everyone hears how the brunette screamed. Issei. Come out, I know you are there, you are the one who brought me here with your energy. He shouted, but his voices was mixed with Kurama demonic tone. Eteria. The generals of the Legion are still missing. Rizavam. Ha ha ha, this was only the beginning, now the main actors are in the fight. Everyone watched the hologram waiting to see what would happen. Issei stands still waiting for them to come out. He was about to say something again when he was surrounded by 11 people who were serious. Issei was the same way. The atmosphere was intense, it had stopped raining, but instead he began to see a blizzard that resonated in the silence of the battlefield. Issei and his opponents were still analyzing each other until Issei was watching his opponents while they analyzed the brunette, none of them just looking at the other. Issei. Who are they and what do they want? He said seriously. To A. You don't need to know, you just have to surrender. To B. You should do it, you are very weak for having faced our creatures. Raymond. It's a shame. I wanted to have fun with him. It's been a long time since I filled someone with bullets. No. Enough, you three, remember what the mission is. Maria. What a party pooper to know, look at him, he's too tired to resist. Bernanke. You should not underestimate him, remember that he defeated Argon alone and did not use his eyes, he may have more hidden abilities. The remaining 5 were silent, they knew that the brunette was not an easy opponent to defeat, they had read that no matter what happened he always fought, even if his defeat was certain, but even though that was what he told himself, he always managed to defeat his opponents with his willpower. Issei. I guess this was not going to be easy, well, the best thing would be to take advantage of this. He said as he gathered his energy and prepared himself. The 6 generals who were still arguing felt a concentration of energy coming from Issei, so they got into a battle pose, but it was too late. He had appeared behind Bernanke and hit him with a blow that sent him up, but he couldn't continue since Raymond hit him. He began to shoot, making him retreat, being taken advantage of by his colleagues to go at Issei, beginning to exchange blows with him. Issei was in a precarious situation, he could barely dodge and block the attacks that were directed towards him. His opponents were different, they were coordinated, preventing him from attacking, and his strength was identical to that of Argon. It was not going to be easy, but then his enemies attacked him. Making him dodge by jumping into the air, which was planned by them, Luxian was behind preparing a magical attack, which when he saw the brunette in the air he launched it, hitting him. Issei could not foresee this, since the others were attacking him, so he had to avoid them, giving Luxian's attack a chance to touch him. The brunette was sent away crashing on the floor a few meters from them. Issei. Well, I guess this time I won't be able to do it quickly. Rebellion. Attacking us from behind when we were distracted is not something a noble warrior would do, don't you think? Issei. And perhaps attacking when there are many more than your opponent is honorable. Orion. Enough, this is not a fight of honor but a mission. He said while brandishing a colossal axe. Rebellion. That comment was certainly unnecessary, he said, preparing his swords. The others imitated what both knights were doing. Issei was ready to attack them again, but he didn't count on the fact that Bernick was attacking him from the side when he saw him. It was too late, so he protected himself with his arms blocking his attack. Bernanke managed to move him a few meters, but the brunette was able to prevent him. She continued pushing him, but she didn't think that his true intention was not that. Suddenly Bernanke released him, pushing him while dodging Riemann's attack. Issei didn't dodge it, taking it squarely. Sakvara and Leisha were scared to see that the attack that hit Issei was the same attack that guy used when the door of the base they had attacked opened. When the attack occurred there was a trail of dust that made it difficult to see. Riemann. Oops, I think I went a little overboard with my power. Idiot, the plan was not to kill him, but to take him alive. Riemann. Well, it's not my fault that he couldn't resist my attack. But everyone saw how Artrax and Centurion were still in a battle pose. Luxian. What's happening, why do they keep going like this? Artrax turned his head towards Luxian, giving a signal to see where the brunette was. Everyone looked at that place where the dust began to disappear. The supernatural was attentive to this, they also did not know why those two things were still serious. Suddenly, from the little dust that there was, a sphere of air came out and hit Riemann, sending him crashing into some trees. Everyone stood in a battle pose. Saber swung her sword which dispelled the dust, but everyone saw how a sword came out of there towards the sky, followed by Issei appearing holding on to it. Everyone launched their attacks like that, but the brunette eliminated them with a cut from his sword. At that point he begins to fall spinning while in his sword he gathered all the chakra he could, making the blade shine. Issei fell in the middle of them making an explosion that sent them all flying. But Issei started holding his face, he was running out of time to use his eyes which was noticed by Rebellion. Rebellion. Now attack when everything is weak due to using your eyes for too long. Luxian began to recite an incantation creating a sphere of gravity over the brunette which began to exert pressure on him, preventing him from moving. Bernanke and Orion began to run, charging, wanting to attack. Seeing this, Issei began to gain more strength, getting up, which Luxian noticed. Luxian. Appearance, I can't immobilize him any longer, he's too strong. Issei was already up, he wanted to throw his sword to escape from there, but he couldn't do it since it was too late. A sharp impact had been heard in the area. Artrax had swept Issei's legs with his attack, causing him to rise, which thanks to this, Bernanke attacked him head-on, causing him to spin in the air, falling flat to the ground. The force of the impact was so great that it was heard everywhere. Artrax was on the ground, and part of his armor was broken from the force of the crash and the pressure that the brunette had, while Bernanke was a little dizzy from colliding with the brunette. Issei was on the floor, he was very dizzy and could barely breathe from both impacts. Both generals stood up with the help of the others to later look at the brunette who stood up still shocked by the attacks, although he quickly returned to the ground. Rebellion. Prepare your attacks, we must finish them now that you are confused. Maria. Okay, I need all this even if I'm tired. She said, surprised by the brunette's strength and will. Everyone was preparing their most powerful attacks ready to end this. All the supernatural looked at this, saddened by what the exile was suffering. Sakvara and the others were already emotionally dejected, they saw how they were about to end the person they loved. Those who felt something for him were crying because they couldn't confess what he felt for him. In the human world there were Smith, Ryder and Chisato outside the barrier, it hurt them all to see how the brunette was being massacred, their hearts couldn't take it anymore, so they fell to the ground while they held their mouths crying, denying what was happening to him. But Laika and Rumi felt that something would happen to the brunette which worried them, but they did not know that he was suffering since they had no idea what was happening. The generals were ready, launching their planned attacks. The brunette couldn't do anything about this. The attack was so powerful and fast that he didn't have time to defend himself or at least try to dodge it. When the attack hit fully, the brunette's scream of pain was heard, which hurt the girls even more. It hurt the 5 female generals to hear him scream. They didn't know why, but they felt that what they were doing to him was wrong. It took a while before the attack ended, Issei had disappeared, the impact was so powerful that it had left the area hot. The generals, upon seeing this, thought that they were going too far, they had practically destroyed the area where Issei was, they did not know if it was still alive or in one piece. All the girls who knew the brunette were crying when they saw how the area where Issei was, they thought that the worst happened, that he had died from that attack. When this happened, Aika and Rumi looked out the window of their house and unconsciously said the name of Issei. Aika and Rumi. Issei. They both said the name with a touch of fear, they didn't know why they felt that way, they didn't want something to have happened to him. Suddenly they began to cry uncontrollably, repeating Issei's name. Their hearts began to hurt as a sign that something happened to Issei. Their relatives went to see what was happening to them. They couldn't stop crying while shouting Issei's name. In the dome, the generals began to approach the crater, thinking that perhaps Issei could still be alive but incapacitated by the attack. Issei was in the middle of the crater, unconscious and badly injured. In his mind he was in the middle of the darkness. He was seeing everything that happened since he fought with the Trahixa. He remembered every event so far, how they banished him and changed him, how his parents didn't know about him, how his partner abandoned him. And those who had hurt him the most, the women he protected, helped, who gave everything he had to see them happy, cheated on him with another. Issei began to feel the darkness consume him again. Suddenly he remembered how he met Sakura, how Kurama helped him, Leisha's words, the girls he met who became the people he most wanted to protect. Issei. I couldn't beat them, I failed all of them, I swore that we would be together, that I would be there for them no matter what happened, but I couldn't keep it. I'm useless who can't even keep his promise. I'm sorry girls, I failed you. Suddenly a purple sphere appeared in front of Issei, beginning to rotate on it. Sphere. Wow, I thought my new guest would be like that, what a disappointment you are, I thought you would be better. Issei. Who are you? Sphere. This is the reason why those sluts betrayed us, even that dragon who was next to us saw us as incompetent because of your weakness. Issei. Shut up, you don't know anything about me to say that. Sphere. Or yes, I know, I was always there, seeing from within you everything you lived and suffered, from when you were betrayed until your own parents, who gave you life, threw you away. Issei. Stop it. Sphere. When the people who swore love to you rejected you for him. Issei. Stop it please. Sphere. That was the day I became conscious, the day I woke up, so to speak. Issei. Like you woke up. Sphere. There Issei, do you think that all your hatred and anger disappeared just like that? No, I am your hatred, I was born from that, I appeared when Rainer had killed you that day, that was when I was born, but you were too blind to notice the hatred you had for me. She. Issei. But how can you talk inside me? Sphere. When you defeated the Knight Argon, that sphere joined me, giving me consciousness, but I couldn't speak to you because you were never disconnected from the real world. Thanks to you being unconscious I was able to talk to you. Issei. Then what do you want? Sphere. I want to help you Issei, we are both the same person, if you die, I do too, that's why you need me, I am your strength, I am your key, so the power, if you allow me to join your main consciousness, we will be the same, more powerful being. Issei. But what will you achieve with that? You won't disappear when we join. Sphere. That does not matter since we will be one, you will have consciousness while I release your hidden potential. We will show them that they should not have provoked us, we will let them know that their betrayal was their worst mistake they could have made. Issei. First I want to know something about what I call you and what you really look like. Sphere. Oh, I knew you would notice that this was not my true form. Issei. If you are a part of me, you would have a way. Sphere. Well, let me show you how I know your hatred. Suddenly the sphere began to change, still showing. This is my true form, the form of all your hate, name me Barkras. Issei. Well then we will be one, we will be a single individual from now on. Barkras. Issei. We are revenge. They both approached as they shone, uniting into one. Outside the generals were looking at the knocked out Issei above the crater. I'm done with this, let's hurry up and get it done now. When they were about to go down to look for it, everything began to shake, the cloudy sky began to thunder furiously, the wind began to be uncontrolled, the earth itself seemed to be shaking because of what was happening, it was as if it knew that something evil was born today. Everything supernatural began to tremble too, suddenly an aura was felt throughout the supernatural and human world, an aura of hatred and rage, everyone was tense, they had never felt this before, not even when the Trahixa was released, had they felt this something very much worse than she had appeared. Suddenly the loose rocks that were around the crater area began to rise. The generals did not know what was happening. Issei began to change his muscles, his teeth began to grow, they became sharper as if they were fangs. Suddenly everything became silent, everyone thought it had been a simple effect of the barrier or the dimension where they were fighting, but they couldn't do anything when a loud roar was heard that chilled their blood. Bernanke was trembling, his animal instinct telling him that something dangerous was approaching. The others were feeling a strong pressure that prevented them from moving. Arthrax and Centurion were scared, both of them who hadn't said something spoke. Arthrax. Something evil is approaching. Centurion. A being of evil is here. Suddenly the entire ground exploded, showing a giant being that came out from where Issei should be. The creature roared in anger, everyone was scared, it was bigger than the creatures they had seen, the being stopped roaring and focused its gaze on the generals who stood tense before it, the beast opened its jaws as it began to charge. His attack. Arthrax. Be careful, dodge the attack. he said to his companions, leaving the front. They all left there. The beasts launched the attack so most of them were able to dodge it in time, but Raymond and Orion, who were more tired than the others, could not save themselves. Both of them received the attack fully, killing them. The other generals were scared, just one attack from that thing was enough to kill them. No. What the hell that thing is and how it appeared? Bernanke. I don't know, I just know that thing came from where the target was. Maria. Wait, look at his eyes. Everyone looked at the beast's eyes, seeing that they were the eyes that the brunette used. Rebellion. That thing is him, how he became that. 2A. Now we will not be able to capture it. I kill Raymond and Orion. Without them we will not be able to activate the object to seal it. 2B. What do? We can't get out of here. Apparently the only ones who could open the barrier are dead. Luxian. Then let's get time, I'll create something to be able to get out or face him. Everyone nodded and began to launch attacks at the beast, while Luxian recited something to escape. Issei was out of control. When they began to attack him he began to get even more angry, making him grow bigger and release more power. He began to launch attacks at the generals who attacked him. Underworld. Everyone was scared and surprised. That thing appeared out of nowhere and started attacking the generals, managing to kill 2 of them easily. Everyone believed it was another invocation of Issei like the previous one. Resurface. I may never be able to see him die. He always manages to get out of any situation that appears to him. Now that thing is with him. Succumb and the others were happy to see that the brunette was still alive, but they didn't know where he was. They only knew that they believed that thing was a summoning of him because of the eyes he had, but Kurama said something that made everyone start to worry. Kurama. Damn it, Issei, did you succumb to hatred by transforming into that to take revenge on everyone who hurt you? Leisha. What are you talking about, Kurama? Maybe that thing is not an invocation like the previous one. Kurama. No, Leisha, that thing is Issei. Everyone was surprised by that. Ruby. Like it's Issei. Kurama. There was an old story of my species that said that when we joined a person that person could enter a beast mode where the user became an animal with our characteristic. Succumb. But as if he is black and you are red. Kurama. Apparently that form obtained that color and appearance thanks to the fact that its hatred was so much that it mixed with my aura that Issei had, managing to mutate that form, making it more dangerous and uncontrollable. Right now it is possible that not even we can get close to it. Viteria. There is a way to get it back to normal. Kurama. I don't know, this has never happened before. I think something must have helped him get there. Succumb. Then we must get out of here to go help him. As she said that, she stood up and began to gather her power, launching her most powerful attack at the barrier. Resurface. Maybe you don't know how to understand, you can't destroy it, no one can. Succumb. Shut up, Beat, help me. Leisha stood up and began to launch her attack as well. The others imitated the action as did the Valkyries and Alicia, along with Sharon and Kateria. Everyone concentrated their power at one point. Suddenly both of their bracelets began to shine, increasing the strength of the attack, beginning to break the barrier, shocking Resurface because of it. Resurface. How is this possible? This barrier is impossible to break, nothing in this world can break it. Kurama, seeing this, launches his attack, also finishing breaking the barrier, reaching out to Resurface, taking him by his tails, and whipping him away from there. Kateria, seeing that the pendant fell, grabbed it and broke it, freeing them from the shield that prevented them from leaving. Succumb. Quickly, let's go with Issei. Everyone teleported to the barrier where Issei was. Those who went were Succumb, Leisha and her entourage, Roygun, Succum's parents, the 12 Valkyries, Alicia and Sharon, Kurama and Kateria. When they left the circle they appeared outside the dome, seeing what was happening inside. Suddenly they felt 3 presences approaching them, seeing Smith, Ryder and Chisato. Smith. Where is Issei? Succumb. Who are you and why do you want to know where Issei is? Kurama. Don't worry, Succumb is one of Issei's acquaintances, she is good and so are the others, then I will explain to you now. We must see how to get in there to stop Issei. Inside the barrier. Issei was destroying the whole place, he was out of his mind. The generals could barely dodge his attacks. In an oversight, Bernanke receives a blow from one of his tails, smashing him to the ground. Before he could get up, Issei crushes him, killing him. The others were tired, it was a matter of time before he would kill them. Rebellion. Luxian, you can't finish yet, we can't last many more, hurry up. Luxian. I do what I can, barely I have the strength. Rebellion nailed his swords to the ground while shouting, come out of the abyss and help me stop my enemies. Suddenly spectral arms emerged from the ground and grabbed Issei, holding him back for the moment. Luxian. You are now able to make the barrier begin to disappear. All the generals gathered and disappeared through a circle that Luxian created. When they left, the spectral arms disappeared, leaving the brunette loose, who began to launch attacks everywhere. Seeing that the barrier quickly disappeared, Sakvara and the others went to Issei to calm him down and get him back to normal. When they were close, Issei appeared in front staring at them. Kurama saw this and thought that she would attack them, so she was about to become bigger to stop him, but she didn't believe what he saw. Issei didn't do anything, he just stood in front of them staring at them. Kurama. It seems that even in that state he recognizes them, that's good, he didn't completely succumb to his hatred. Sakvara. Calm down, darling, everything is over, no one will try to take you away from us again. He said, caressing her snout. Aisha. You can rest assured, we are here with you now. The others said identical things, which made the brunette begin to forget the hatred he felt at the moment, beginning to deform. When he had returned to normal, they all saw that he was very injured, he had deep cuts, serious burns and he was barely dressed, his condition. It was fatal. Issei. I did it. I managed to keep my promise of never leaving them. He said breathlessly, making Sakvara and Aisha start to cry, since that promise was what made it become that, he did it so that they would not be sad. Suddenly Issei collapses to the ground, scaring everyone. Kurama went to check on her. Kurama. Don't worry, he's just very tired from his wounds, but we have to go and heal him. I don't think he can take it anymore. They all nodded and began to walk with Issei to their home to cure it. Sakvara opened a circle where she took them to Issei's house. All her parents were there watching everything. Lady Aguirre. Honey, do you think he forgives us for what we did to him? Lord Aguirre. I don't know, dear, we hurt him a lot with that, plus we almost made our daughter marry him since she was his partner, I won't be impressed that he hated us. Lady Aguirre lowered her head, she knew that if he came to hate them, they couldn't do anything, they deserved it. Lord Aguirre. We can only withdraw and let them take care of him, then we can try to obtain his forgiveness or at least tell him that we accept that he is with our daughter. They both saw each other and proceeded to leave the place, thinking about what the brunette would say to them when they saw each other again. In love and heartbreak the signs are clear, so don't complain if something goes wrong, never ignore the person who cares about you because one day you will realize that you lost a diamond while you were busy collecting stones, and then another person will find her earning what you didn't appreciate. The former Issei girls were devastated, horrified, disgusted, the plans they had made with that supposed person who told them that he would make them happy had deceived them in the worst possible way. He did not turn out to be their Prince Charming, but quite the opposite, he was their worst enemy, the one they thought was dead was neither more nor less than resurface Lucifer. They had all fallen for his deception, doing things that would leave them marked in more ways than one for life. After Sakvara and the others went to where Issei, those who were there were perplexed, the one for whom they had changed the old pillar turned out to be their enemy, no one said anything, some were still trying to digest this, the girls who were with him were in a terrible state. Some were screaming, others were still vomiting when they thought about all the things that some women did with him, like the matriarchs or goddesses, they were disgusted, they were so desperate that they all began to pray, wishing that this was a nightmare or illusion, they couldn't be more wrong, all of this was real, and this was the consequence of their actions which will follow them for life. Many men who were married to them were devastated, their wives who had been with them for a long time had deceived them, and the worst thing is that it was with whom they would have least thought. Many patriarchs decided to leave the place without caring that their women were begging them for help. On the other hand, Surzic's was the one who got the worst since both the woman who fathered him and the one he had married had done those things to him. He couldn't articulate anything, he just looked at them with his eyes lifeless like Zeodicus for his wife. Both were helped by Azazel and Michael to get up, while Ajuka accompanied them to prevent his friend Surzic's from doing anything in that state. Even Issei's ex-father was devastated, his wife had betrayed him. With the one he thought was better than his son. Some gods were the same as them, since their wives had been with that son of bitch, among them were Zeus and some others, some heirs were lost, they secretly from the grimoires, had been meeting with the supposed Ash to be able to father his children, but it turned out badly for them. At play, everyone was very desperate about this, suddenly everyone saw how Rizavum, who was barely alive, was crawling towards a wall, leaning on it. Rizavum. Hehehe, I guess that's as far as I've come, it was nice to be with you this time. Everyone who was with him was disgusted by that. But it was nice while it lasted, at least I take those memories with me, plus it's possible that I hope this is not the end of my legacy. Suddenly he began to vomit blood. Well, I guess it's time. Suddenly Rizavum lowers his head, implying that he had died. Everyone stood looking at his corpse, as they could have been deceived in this way, and because they had not been able to foresee it, everyone left the place, while some guards took away Rizavum's body. That day was one that the supernatural would never forget, but it was nothing more than the consequences of their actions, but what they didn't know was that even more suffering awaited them to live through it. Riaz was the one who had had the idea that Ash was better than Issei. Little by little she saw this before she believed that he was the same as Razor at the time, but after some conversations with him, she was able to notice that this was not the case. Little by little, she got to know him, which made her start to have feelings for him. Just before the fight against Trihiksa she had confessed to him. That day she had given herself to him and body forgetting about Issei. According to her, he was the only one who I really understood her, but I don't expect that everything was a farce. The Keno had met him in another way. She had seen how he started dating her friend and lover, which made her doubt why Rias had changed Issei for him, so she decided to see what he was like for her to do that to the brunette, to him. Just as she fell before the charm he had and without thinking she gave herself to him with her mistress. Kaneko was the one who had some disdain for this. At first she thought that what they were doing was wrong. Issei had given everything of himself for them. He had helped her in many things, from saving Rias from her engagement, helping her accept her side, fall into a Keno and help her recognize and accept her sister, but she didn't expect that she would fall to Ash's sweet words and his smile. Asia had a certain problem. She didn't know what to do. She wanted to tell Issei about this, but she didn't want the others to hate her. They were the first family she had, and she appreciated them, so it was to see if Ash was a good person, which ended in her succumbing to him. Him for his charisma and kindness that he had. But Zenobia and Irina didn't take as long as with Asia. They saw that he was different than Issei. He listened to them and encouraged them in other ways that Issei didn't. They fell for his charisma and kindness, in addition to showing fighting skills that the brunette did not show at the moment. They saw a man who was strong and at the same time compassionate. With Roswi S, Gabriel, Serafal, Helmenhold, Yasaka, Kuroka and Penemu it was very different. He showed them maturity that the brunette did not possess. They all became interested in him when they saw that he was serious when required, in addition to being very understanding of their tastes. Implying that they cared a lot about him, they all saw that he was a perfect man in their eyes, so they did not hesitate to give themselves to him, leaving the brunette aside. Griselda and Valerie saw in him a skilled warrior who, no matter who, continued to fight and improve. They both fell for this. They were looking for a skilled warrior to be their partner. Before they believed that Issei was like that, but when they met him, they saw that he was a better fighter than him, implying that he was much stronger than the brunette. Leffe, Valeria Teeps and Ingvald saw someone humble and gentle, who made them feel loved in a different way. They all loved Issei for his help, but with Ash it was different. He was very different from him. He showed them that his love was pure and sentimental than the one Issei gave them. But Sona and her entourage along with Ravel, they had certain differences about him at first, but after seeing and knowing more about him they surrendered to him. They were the ones who had put up the most resistance, since they were more noble in the case of love for Issei, but like the others, they succumbed to Ash's personality. With Office, Scarlet, Mio and Tiamat it was much more complicated. They knew the consequences of deceiving Issei, but they all found a way to ensure that Issei did not die from the fall. They would strip him of all traces of dragon essence that possessed even Mio, who he gave the idea, so that at least they would pay him for everything he did for them. And they could be with Ash without having to have Issei's death on their mind. Now with Grafia and Benelana things were different. Despite not having a relationship with the brunette, they were in love with him even though they were with their husbands. This happened because they saw what Issei was like, so without him realizing it, he fell in love with them a little. Little by little, but at that moment Issei did not want to betray the friendship he had with Cerziches and Zeoticus. That is why he did not start a relationship with them. Because of this they saw that Ash could do what Issei could not do with them. Love them. The same thing happened with the goddesses like Aphrodite and Athena. They were together with their husbands, but they had feelings for the brunette. They knew that he would not be with them when they were married, so they went with Ash, who did not refuse them. In the case of Lady Citri and Mishlabail it was different. Both of them did not know or speak with the brunette. They got an idea of his personality and character from his daughter or those who told them about him. For this reason they began to have a certain appreciation for him. But they knew that they couldn't try anything with him due to his status and his condition. But with Ash it was something else. He had nothing to do with Issei, so they thought, why not try, since they are very similar in character and personality. So they both approached Ash, seeing that he was supposedly better than him. But in all of this, the thought of all of them to justify their betrayal was the same. He was not assertive enough to claim us as his physical partners before everyone. But this, despite being a useless cause for such an act, was true. The brunette did not go further than simple kisses and caresses towards them. But let's go into context with this, because Issei was not looser with them. That is easy, despite not show that he had a trauma in love, which was induced when Yuma, or rather Rainer, had killed him. That day Issei had obtained that trauma that prevented him from going further with his girls, but that does not explain how he was able to do it with Sikvera after that they would betray him. Well, it's easy. Even though he couldn't go any further, that doesn't mean that if the girl was the one who asked him to go to that point. That was the case with Sikvera and Issei. She had urged him to do that when they did it. Was the one who started. With Rias and the others were only provocations or insinuations, which did not give a concrete idea of what they wanted, causing Issei not to take the next step. But Sikvera was the one who decided to go to that point, leading to that result. But this is in the past. Now let's see how Issei's ex-girls and others are doing right now. Each of them were in individual rooms, but they were not their private rooms since when they were about to enter these they had memories about what they were doing there with rid of them, and let's say that they were not nice memories, they all went crazy starting to destroy everything. But there was in them especially the furniture such as the bed and the tables, since they were the places where they mostly did it with him. The anger was so much that some had to be put to sleep to calm them down, others just when they saw that room they vomited because of the disgust they had. Rias and her entourage were the ones who suffered the most since they were the ones who spent the longest time with him. They all just cried and cursed themselves for this. How could they do those things with that man and give their first time to him? They were all devastated until that a certain person came to mind who gave them happiness at the time, but due to their idiocy they changed it, resulting in what was currently happening to them. Rias. Please. Forgive me, Issei, I didn't want this to happen, I was weak of heart, please forgive me, Issei. It was the hardbone scream she was giving in her room, remembering who had always helped her and she betrayed him. Bakeno. Help me please, Issei, I need your warmth and your arms, I need you to be here with me. He said, crying. Asia. Issei-san, please forgive you, I didn't want to deceive you. You are my first friend and love that I had. She said, sobbing while holding a crucifix in her hand, the same one with which he beat Razor to save Rias. She didn't care that it was hurting her. Kaneko. Issei-senpai, please help me, I feel like I'm lost and I don't know what to do, I need it. Irina and Zenobia. Help us, Issei, please, we need your help, we didn't know what we were doing. Rasui S. Please save me from this nightmare, Issei, I need you please. Those were the screams and cries that they all said, as well as the others, calling out to that person who had helped them so much and only received the worst from them. We can say that each and every one of them is living with what they deserve and sowed discord itself with their actions. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching and supporting us. See you in the next part.